All right, thank you very much. My name is Robbie Smith. I'm a 15-year high school math teacher. I am not a politician. I've never ran for anything before. I was in my classroom whenever the order came down that kids were not allowed in the building. In Madison County, where I was born and raised and grew up, it was heartbreaking. We had kids that did not have internet access. We had so many kids that were getting behind, and there was nothing that we could do about it. As try as I might, I tried to come in and help kids face to face, but we were not even allowed to do that. The kids that had no internet access couldn't come in. And so that is what really drove my decision to get into this race. And I think it shows up the fact that we've got 12 people running, that a lot of us looked at the government as it was and said it's just wrong. And I'm just going to try to do what I can to make it better. So a little background, something that to think about as we go along. I grew up, born and raised in Kentucky. My parents, blue-collar workers. My dad had a Volkswagen garage that he ran. Then he was a maintenance man for a supermarket. My mom did order entry and chased hot parts at the High Street Yale, where if they were missing parts, she would find them before they had to shut down the assembly line. In our spare time, we raised 7 acres of tobacco, took care of 20 to 30 head of cattle, raised hogs, raised hay. We farmed, we did everything. Whenever my first year I was married, I would tuck the kids in, I'd leave the house and go change engines in the garage or do body work and put on paint jobs in cars. I have worked across the board in the state. I've worked agriculture and education and math background, and I think that I would bring all of that together into the governor's office. The hard work mentality that you don't stop. The knowledge that sometimes you don't get to have everything you want. You have to make a budget and deal with your money. Those things that we know as regular Kentuckians that they seem to have forgotten as an elite class in our political elite class. So a few of the major things I'd really like to focus on. One, that, I would say if you pulled everyone in here, everyone's got a family or loved one that is suffering from addiction. Now, addiction is a real problem in Kentucky, and however bad it is on paper, it's worse in real life. As a teacher, I've got so many kids living with aunts and uncles, grandparents, and they don't have parents at home because of addiction. And one thing that's really started that process is that kids, I don't know if you all know this, the majority of young adults and children have their wisdom teeth taken out. And almost exclusively, opioids are prescribed for that. Science tells us that acetaminophen and ibuprofen taken together is the best thing for surgical trauma, period. So why are we still giving almost every child in Kentucky an opioid? Big pharmaceutical companies. We've got to get their hand out of our politics and get the drugs out of our kids. I'm glad. Thank you very much. I'm glad that we've had lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies. That's great, and we can get millions of dollars. That's wonderful. But in the beginning, the lives were not for sale, so no amount of money can pay back what we've lost. Next up, we need to continue our successful programs against addiction, drug court being one of the best ones in the state. And once somebody, this is unpopular for conservatives, so bear with me, once somebody has gone through drug court and they are clean for 2 years, we've got to get rid of that record. Not for people who are selling drugs, not for the suppliers, but for the individuals who were just caught with drugs. That follows them the rest of their life. And what's the number one reason people fall back and don't recover? Because they can't provide for their families. And they cannot provide for their families if they can't get a job. So I'd like to reintegrate those individuals back into our society so that they can join us in our success. It'll help us as a state, and it'll help them. And so that's addiction. Education, again, I'm a math teacher, so I've got a lot of experience in that field. I'd really like to shake up the Kentucky Education Department. Number one, kids really need to have that money follow them, whether they are going to go to a private school or a charter school. That's a non-negotiable. And once they're there, we've got excellent trade schools and vocational experiences for these kids that need to be open for those who are in private school and those who are homeschooled. Because we should not deny any of these kids a privilege to an education when we have it. And another thing, we've really got to refocus our education on vocation and trade. We need to kind of pull up some colleges important. We need to stop funding colleges for silly degrees. We could save a fortune if we just cut the funding for silly degrees in colleges and put that where it belongs. Put a trade school in every county that can help these kids have jobs out of school. So addiction, education, economy. So I'm for the beef processing plant, of course. Anything, one small step at a time, every single thing we can do to make Kentucky better and more appealing to businesses, the better. we need to eliminate property tax at the state level for individuals, because are you really owning anything if you have to send a check to somebody every year for it? We need to eliminate income tax. I'm glad we're doing it, but we're also trying to keep it revenue neutral. We need to just cut spending, and we wouldn't have to raise all these other taxes to make up for it. We need to cut income tax and eliminate business tax so businesses can come in. And look at Toyota in Georgetown. Can anybody argue that Toyota has lost Kentucky money just because they had a tax break? No. We cut business taxes, we bring in jobs, we bring in money, we bring in revenue. Ultimately, you bring in more revenue through growth than higher taxes, period. All right, so that's like my top three, and they're all intertwined. And I've got a lot of stuff. I'm a problem solver. I am not a rhetoric talker or a politician. I look at what there is, I find out what's wrong with it, and do something meaningful to make it better. That's what I would bring to the governor's office. I think it's about time that we had a regular person in the office that has to go back and live in the rules and the laws that they make, and not just go back to a bubble or a chauffeur or $1 million mansion where they are defended from all of the consequences of their doing. And so that's what I want to bring. I would love to field any questions, but rsmith4gov, the number 4.com is my website. You'll see all kinds of policies on that, and have an opportunity to donate if you'd like to. I will say this, in lieu of donation, I would like you to follow my Facebook page. It's kind of my base of operations. I'm running a grassroots campaign, low funding, making the stops, and I think that it is going to happen, that we're going to move from what it is now, whoever's got the most money gets the candidacy, to whoever's got the best message gets the candidacy. And to do that, it's going to take your all's help and everyone else to really get that message out without spending $1 million. I don't think there's a reason to have $500,000 ads if the people who are interested can share the information if there's something available like Facebook or a social media platform. So, anybody have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
On the topic of eliminating property taxes, which I'm also a big fan of, what would be your thoughts on how would you replace the revenue for the school systems examples?
Cut spending. I don't
specifically with the school system.
Specifically, well, so local taxes, local property taxes fund that for the most part, and the state level would not eliminate those. So I would eliminate the state level property taxes if possible. Now, local communities could replace their property taxes for the school system with a sales tax. Now, right now, a lot of people are dodging taxes, and we're punishing anyone who owns anything with property taxes. And so if you replace your revenue with sales tax, then everybody would be contributing to the tax pool instead of just the most successful or just the people who were trying their best to own something in their life. Surely, yes ma'am.
Are you pro-life?
I am pro-life. I am very pro-life. I would love to share, if I have time, a real snippet. My wife was in the hospital for 2.5 months with my youngest son. And the doctors told me that she wouldn't make it, and that he wouldn't make it, and that we would have to abort. And we did not, she did not. I can't take any credit. I supported her, but my wife is the strongest individual I've ever met. And so we are very committed to a pro-life stance. I believe that every child deserves the right to live. It's the first thing outlined in our Constitution, the right to life. Nothing else can come afterwards if we don't have the right to life. Yes, sir.
Just have a second. You talk about the drugs, set aside trafficking, you talk about just, possession, use of drugs. Do you believe that there's a place for incarceration prior to expungement?
Yes. Yes, I do. I think that if you don't have a consequence, then there's no way to stop the behavior. So I believe we need to try to stop the behavior, try to correct the problem, and then provide opportunities for those who have succeeded. Thank you very much.